Hey guys, Droopy Harlel here with Nine Leadership. Today we're talking to Arslaan Khan, IT security expert and my good friend. We're going to discuss common topics such as giving yourself a haircut, awesome t-shirts, and while we're at it for good measure, we're going to discuss a little thing called Zoom and what happened last week because of all the remote workers on there and the temptation that hackers felt to jump in and mess with stuff. We're going to talk about the impact of the situation on you and other remote workers, what Zoom is doing to remediate the situation, as well as what we can expect to see in the future from Zoom and other companies. Lastly, we're talk about some things that you can do to protect yourself to make sure that you're safe from cybersecurity attacks, as safe as possible anyway. Stay tuned and enjoy the video, and as usual, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you want to. Thanks again. Enjoy the video. Arslan, thanks for joining us today, man. Tell us a little bit about your background and who you are and that kind of thing.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Drew. My specialty is in network security, but I've done pretty much everything from storage side to LAN side to Windows, anything you call it. But now specifically, what I'm doing is I'm working as a solutions architect. So businesses come to us like, hey, we need a storage solutions, or we need a network solutions, or we need, we want to have an Active Directory, whatever. So we craft different devices and put up a solutions together that work for them. It could be for a large scale company, it could be for small businesses, or it could be just one off, consultant doing an audit for like, hey, I just want to look at my security, how it holds up, that kind of stuff.
Okay, cool. So you do like audits, you do like actual, mitigation, that kind of work, and then you do like the proactive strategy type stuff as well.
Exactly.
Awesome. Great. So there's a little story about a little company called Zoom in the last week or so. You want to tell us a little bit about what happened?
I mean, sure. Since this whole pandemic that has happened, you're seeing everybody working from home like normal, doing this like this is becoming the new norm now. Everyone's even doing happy hours with this. So everybody needed a platform or a cheap, quick way to do that. And since cloud is a very has enabled us to like do things very fast and quick, Zoom was very available, and people just signed up on it. It was great. From my perspective, I mean, I knew Zoom, but not a lot of people have heard about Zoom before this. A lot of people use like WebEx, GoToMeeting. Those were the big platforms that enterprise people used. So when there was a large uptick in Zoom saw a lot of traffic, and then threat actors or bad actors or hackers, you want to call it, they always target where the most data is. And because of this pandemic, you saw a large exposure to company data in collaboration software such as Zoom. So attackers try to attack those places. So they just found a vulnerability that Zoom had. For example, most platforms, sharing platforms, have like waiting rooms. So when you connect the meeting, a host has to let you in. Zoom didn't have anything like that, and those little links that you send, just like you did to me, that you click,
Mhm.
those small links. Those are guessable links, right? So they're just generated, so people can auto generate them. So someone will generate it eventually. You'll hit one, and they'll just go into a meeting. Especially if there's no uh, uh, mechanism of hey to allow or not allow. So that happened, and everybody, you saw random people join random meetings. They posted profanity. They said things that they shouldn't have said. So that was one of the attacks. And then again, another one was their privacy concern that happened as well. That a lot of the companies realized that they also have a data center in China, which all the sessions was also connecting to. So that was a huge concern as well. So that's basically what happened.
Gotcha. So, I mean, it sounds like there were a couple different issues going on at the same time, right? Like there was a storage issue in China on the cloud or whatnot, and then there was also the issue of the meetings themselves not being necessarily secure in the sense that there was no waiting room for most of the meetings, and that folks could just kind of guess. So, I mean, I'm sure there were situations where they were targeted, but then it also sounds like sometimes people were just messing around and just throwing random
Oh
numbers.
yeah, yeah. I mean, hackers will just explore to see where the meat is, right? Like, I mean, you constantly hear people say, "Oh, Apple's never gets hacked." I was like, yes, but Apple's a small population, right? Windows is the biggest population. People are, so they're going to attack Windows. They could hack if they wanted to. There's not enough exposure there. So why bother trying, right? So that's one of the reasons. And the other big reason Zoom was a huge issue is for companies, especially healthcare and government companies that are doing these kind of Zoom meetings and exposing their data. There was Zoom's website said that, hey, they are end-to-end encryption, which turned out to be false because, I mean, they had their encryption, but they had their own proprietary transport level encryption, which didn't meet any standard encryption that is widely recognized.
Gotcha. So it didn't meet any international standards or anything like that for.
No, not even the basic U.S. government standards.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So then that's obviously a concern.
It's a huge concern, and it
Yeah.
kept a lot of people, and especially for companies that are forcing their employees to move to work from home and doing collaboration like that. For those people, like even myself and my colleagues and other people working in security profession in those companies, it's a huge concern how to quickly mobilize your workforce from work from home and while keeping things secure.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and a lot of it was the fact that this was a quick pivot, right? It was something that had to happen.
It was exactly. It was all, that's what they call 0 day, right? Like, I mean, if the vulnerability was found that day, people were exploiting that day. Everything happened pretty quick. Which was very interesting to see, and we'll come out at the other end, and we'll see how the new normal looks.
Yeah. So what is Zoom, to your knowledge at least, what has Zoom done to try to mitigate some of those problems?
I mean, Zoom definitely, I remember reading that for the next 90 days, they have put their entire developing force to mitigating these bugs and developing security encryptions on it, so it can be better utilized. The quick things that I've seen so far, they have enabled waiting rooms, they have enabled passwords now on your meetings as well.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two things I've seen. I just saw another letter that came out today, with basically, trying to make a good feel thing like, hey, it's not all gloom and doom. We're doing and mitigating all these things. So, please don't hate this kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. No, because I'm sure they lost a fair number of people because of the situation. But the question I have, going back to the initial, the initial hack, so to speak, how much of that was user error and how much of that was really, Zoom?
I mean, this was clearly Zoom's. It was not much of the user side. I would say is, always you have to, and if you're in a corporation, if you're in your business, always teach your users how to be aware of these kind of things, or like your phishing lures, the email scam that don't look like really, really legit, or don't leave your laptops open publicly, or those are the good practice that you. But in this case, it was definitely a platform error,
Mm-hmm.
where they stated they have encryption when they don't, and when the platform is pretty publicly open for enterprise users.
Okay. I mean, the thing I was looking at though is also like, there were psychiatrists and doctors using this platform
Absolutely
for their patients.
Huge health and PPI concern, and
yeah.
a lot of secure information that shouldn't be there. And because of these findings, you're seeing a lot of government healthcare now moving away from it, while Zoom is trying to, do a feel good campaign and saying that, hey, we're taking care of this stuff. But I mean, I don't want to single out Zoom, right? All collaboration tools are not immune to cyber attacks. Even
Sure.
I remember seeing Cisco's WebEx that they had some bugs, but which they patched like 2 weeks ago. I mean, they're on board. They're they're a networking telecom company, so they're always aware of these things. But Slack is another good one, and Trello is another one. Yep. They can also be hacked, which those bugs were also found. So basically, with the Zoom happening, with a lot of people going to collaboration platforms, those companies that do always do code debug testing, code testing, all that stuff, they were pretty quick on the response. While Zoom, as I said, like Zoom was not as widely used or was not widely as known. And when people jumped on it, it was, I mean, I'm sure they're working night and day right now.
Oh, I'm sure they are. I mean, they can't afford to lose all the users that they would stand to lose because of this, obviously. So I think as a medical professional, healthcare professional, those kind of things, how much of that is their responsibility though to know that this is not HIPAA compliant, because HIPAA is a different level of security. I mean, for like a typical meeting, like we were on that meeting a couple days ago for the networking group, right? That's obviously the level of privacy needed there is much less than a doctor patient responsibility situation, right? And so how much of that is on the doctor or the provider to say, okay, this let me do some research and make sure that this platform is secure enough and meets at least the basic level security requirements.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of my friends doing teledentistry. They're doing telehealth. Even my friends in Innova, some of them are practicing telehealth now because of the COVID situations. And you're absolutely right. Like, I mean, there's a lot of personal information that is exchanged between a doctor and you, even in legal matters, like, between you and your lawyer, any of that stuff. And a lot of it does depend on the provider or the business who is providing those resources, for example healthcare and everything, to make sure that the platform they use is HIPAA compliant. Those are the reason accreditations happen. And if they're not using that, of course they can be audited, they can be fined, all that stuff. But from the user side is, this is users in their personal life. They can do whatever they want. Obviously, if they get hacked, they get hacked, and there's consequences of that. But there's no legal ramification for it. But on the business side, if you don't meet certain requirements and people's personal information gets leaked or breached, then you can have some legal and monetary consequences, which is not good for businesses.
Yeah, absolutely not. Especially, I mean, they don't need that on top of everything else they're dealing with right now. So,
Correct. Absolutely. So yeah, so I would say the businesses should comply to those accreditations, and those accreditations there so you can meet those guidelines and be sure that, hey, your information, your client's information is not, or the risk is a lot lower. The risk will never be 0%, but at least you can lower that and mitigate that risk as much as you can as a business.
sure, absolutely. So, what are some things that folks can look at, users on the user side, in terms of making themselves as secure as possible? Like you said, you can never make it quite zero, but in terms of bringing that risk down as much as possible, what can users do for themselves?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, it's not all doom and gloom in the security world. I would always, to my customers and my clients, I would always recommend do best practices, right? Best practices are, for example, have complex passwords, have two-factor authentications. A lot of people don't do two-factor authentications. Hell, for Facebook, I have two-factor authentication. Uh, uh, and do those for businesses. Routinely apply patches, and every week, every 2 weeks. Never let it go more than a month, obviously. Uh, and those are the times where people find vulnerabilities. And if you leave those open, that is a wide door for the actors to come in and start, messing with your environment. Uh, Last thing I would say is, best thing you can do. All things starts, with the users clicking something. Nothing gets accidentally down. I mean, accidentally, someone has to click to initiate anything, right? So educate your users the best you can. Say, hey, tell them how phishing lures look like. Make sure, just like I said, make sure to not leave your laptops open or leave your phones open. Have complex passwords on it. Other thing is, like, since we are using these collaboration platforms, ask yourself, is it okay to share this kind of information on these platforms that might not normally you would not be doing such thing as well. So it takes a little time for them to get educated, and then they'll take a second look, like, this doesn't look like my normal stuff. Like, maybe there's something fishy going on. Let me talk to my IT guy, send them like, hey, I got this. Does this look legit? Not stuff like that.
Awesome. So I support a lot of coaches in their businesses and that kind of thing, and they use many of them use Zoom, and so for concerns that they might have about this kind of thing, I mean, for their, like, say they want to, if they record sessions, I know some of them do, many of them don't. I don't record sessions, but I know many people do record sessions or record things like this. For folks who are recording things, what are some best practices for recording and storage and that kind of
I mean, one thing I did find out in my reading that when you're recording Zoom meetings, uh, uh, as a host, whoever's recording the meeting, if they record it to their local laptop, all transcripts are saved. When I say all transcript, meaning even from person to just person personally when they were chatting within the meeting. But when the meeting is recorded and stored in the cloud, then those private messages are not stored there as well. So that's one thing to say. And the reason I bring that up is a lot of people, you're in a meeting, let's just say your CIO or CEO is presenting something, and I started chatting, hey, Drew, that was a stupid mistake that he said, blah, blah. And then let's just say that meeting was being recorded locally.
Yeah.
Then if they go back, they'll look as like, oh my God, Drew and Arslaan was shitting on, stuff like that. So
That's good to know.
yeah. So, but I think I think that was by design, just for saving a lot of stuff. But those are things that you might want to be aware of, meaning that, hey, what you're trying to say or what you're stating in Zoom or sharing in Zoom or any collaboration platform while enterprise meetings and corporate meetings are happening, is it okay to do that? Is it not okay to do that? Ask yourself those kind of questions. And for your health coaches and for anybody out there, business with sensitive information, I would just be, cognizant of what I'm saying, what information I'm giving on platforms, because as I said, it's not 100% secure, but Zoom is making great strides to get there and for people to be able to trust them again, to be able to talk and share information such as that. But for now, I would just say be cognizant of what you're saying and what you're sharing, because not everything needs to be said on Zoom.
True story. Is it safer to save things on the cloud or locally, or is there not really a difference between two things?
Secure. I mean, if you're saving locally, that depends how secure your on-prem infrastructure is. If you're securing on the cloud, more than likely you're going with a provider such as Google, AWS, Azure, whatever, and they generally are pretty security centric. So I won't be too concerned if you're saving stuff on the cloud. That would be very reliable and secure. But if you're saving something on-prem, that is completely depending on what your on-premise infrastructure and security looks like.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, Arslaan, one more question. I see you're wearing a certain shirt there, and I gotta represent something else over here.
I noticed that too, Drew.
Yeah. So I see. It's okay. No one's perfect, so I won't hold that against you.
Oh.
But no, thanks a lot, man. Tell us a little bit about you, about how people can get in touch with you if they have questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can definitely find me in LinkedIn. My last name is Khan, Khan. First name is Arslaan. You are one of my connections. So if you see me and Drew being connected, obviously you can find me there. If you guys have any need for your business to create solutions from storage to networking, to web servers, security centric, please reach out to me. We have a great plethora of partners that work with us, and we can provide you an adequate solution that meets your need with an affordable price.
Great. Awesome, Arslaan. Well, thanks so much, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time to talk with us today. And I'm going to put your information in the description below, if you don't mind. And
absolutely,
us can reach out to you directly. And then if anyone has any questions or comments, please reach out to Arslaan, reach out to me, leave a comment below, like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe and hit the bell. Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks, Arslaan. Take care and stay safe, man.
Thank you, man. Take care.
Later.